Friends, we have some rabbit holes that I'm going to kind of drop you into today for you to do your own experimentation, for you to take a look at. And the whole point of this is so that you can liberate your mind from this chasing the transits, chasing money, chasing relationships, chasing your kids, chasing whatever that you're chasing. Okay. This is the point that I want to really drop in today, is that when we lean deeper into our monopole, when we lean deeper into our decision making, our centeredness, we get to participate with life in a completely different manner. Okay. It's no longer about chasing the shadow aspects. It's no longer about chasing the not self. It's no longer about chasing the program or running after the program, whatever you want to call it. This is going to help you see things through a 30,000-foot view, so that the transits and the program don't pull you off center, and so that you can recognize the life cycles as a brand new movie set or a developmental process for your natal chart. Okay. So one thing I want you to really recognize as well, in the cross of planning, which is also the cross of Maya is built into that, the cross of Maya, cross of planning. These two aspects are very hypnotic, okay, because of the logical activations in the cross of Maya. And those logical activations, what logic wants is repetition. And it wants repetition that can hypnotize the process of the mind. Wants to hypnotize the mind. Now, understand something when you look at the logic. Not only does it want hypnotic, reproduction, but it wants to be able to repeat the pattern. Okay. It wants to be able to repeat the pattern. Now, that's excellent when you think about cell reproduction. Perfect. Please, liver cells continue to reproduce and be liver cells. I appreciate that. But when we take a look at hypnotic language that keeps us locked into a pattern, and that actually is what we usually do in our not self, is we will hypnotize ourselves to a pattern that isn't beneficial. So recognize, for 412 years, there's been a lot of hypnotic programming that has locked humanity into this bargain with the cross of planning that created a Maya that was excellent for 412 years. It was produced what it needed to produce. But now it's like, oh, this cross of penetration is coming along, and this cross of the sleeping phoenix is coming along, and it's like, oh, hold on a minute. That hypnotic movement into a tribe that no longer exists over here. Okay, so because it no longer exists past 2027, there's this movement for us to now integrate our own decision-making, to reintegrate spirit, to come out in a different way into reality. However, if you're caught in the hypnotic programming, it's going to get really difficult past 2027 to be individual. So I'm going to share with you the transits today, just so that you can take a look at how that works. And then we're going to drop into life cycles. So again, dropping you into a few different places so that you could start to break down the walls of what the hypnotic mind is like dictating and banging at you every day so that you can kind of bust out of it and recognize it. Okay. So I am going to share my screen so that you can see this in a new way. All right. So the daily transits, this is the program. Okay. This is the program. So if we take a look, let's just annotate on here. So if we take a look here, okay, this image actually comes from the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac clock that David Weiss, Flat Earth Dave, has created. It is absolutely magical. And what we see here is that the sky clock is moving. It's going around, it's ticking around, it's moving. It's keeping the mind amused. That's what the program does. Okay. The program is like an amusement for your mind. Now imagine yourself being on this amusement ride, right? You probably don't feel like you're in control at all as you're on a swing, flying way far away from the monopole, right? Going around for the ride. And what the program does is it's going to divert your attention. It's going to delude your knowing. It's going to fool you. It's going to tease you. It's going to hoax you. It's going to entrap you. Okay. And a lot of times it makes fun of you. And literally, you know, it's a muse. It's a muse for what? Well, it's a muse for your mind. That's what mente is. It's an amusement for your mind. So when I have conversations with clients, I constantly recommend to them that it's important to not pay too much attention to the transits until you really can understand your own internal dialogue and your own internal decision-making process. Okay. We just had a deep conversation about this in our mentorship class. And one of the mental projectors, she's an amazing astrologer who now is dropping that amazement into our human design community and blending the two. And it is like pure magic. So if you're interested in being in a group that really can support you, the human design mentorship program is excellent. So in this, what has been fun is that she, as a mental projector, was really always looking at those transits, chasing the transits, and she's like, I was exhausted, totally exhausted, helping people build businesses off of it and all of that. And it was exhausting. It was like constant chase in the mind, a constant chase in the mind, but also a constant, feeling like there's no control. Okay. So when you're looking at the transit system, understand something. You want to be solidly in your decision-making. Okay. You must understand your own decision-making. Mental projectors, reflectors. This is critical for y'all to really understand that the environment is not something that you want to chase. It's something you just want to use as a sounding board. Okay. Once all of us, every single one that's in human design, understands our decision making, then you can go out and look at what is happening in the transits. What's going on in that transit, and do I want to participate with it? Your decision making will tell you from this centered space, from this very centered space, it's going to tell you, is it correct for me from here to participate with whatever transit's happening? Is it, is it beneficial to me to participate? Will I have any kind of development from participating with the transit? Okay. You want to go internally. You want to listen to your inner authority to give you the guidance. Yes, we're going to participate with this today. No, we are not going to participate with this today. So as someone who's been in design for like 10 years, I very seldom, unless I'm asked, look at the transits. Why? Because I trust my sacral authority. And I know that if I have to participate with something, that the clock is shifted, the sky clock moved, and I need to participate, it will show up in my life. And my sacral authority will engage with it, and I will participate with it, whether that be a situation that is going to help my development of my natal chart, or a human being that comes into my life that I get to learn from, gather wisdom from, that's going to help me, in my life. There has to be a benefit, right? They're also going to learn. The situation is also going to benefit from my participation. It's a win-win situation, okay? But if it's not a win-win situation, my sacral is like, not engaging. We are not playing this game, because that's what the program is. The program is a game, it's amusement. That's what it is. It's going to keep you amused. It's going to keep the mind chasing. So my sacral, I allow it to take over. I just trust it, and it's going to engage and participate with what it needs to engage and participate in. Okay. So understand that from the transits. If you're chasing the transits, if you're like, oh yeah, this transit, that transit, this happened, just relax and go, oh, okay, I participated with that. Excellent. What did I learn? What did I learn? What was the mutual beneficial aspect that took place? That's the importance of the transits. Okay. Now let's play the game of the life cycles. Okay. And the game of the life cycles is very much different. So when you are doing any kind of cycle charts, whether that be a return charts, so solar return or lunar return. Lunar return, you could do those once a month. I don't ever recommend that unless you are a reflector and you want to really understand your process. That's the lunar people, okay? Reflectors, when you know this lunar process, you become the most solid decision-making human beings on the planet, because you have the wisdom so deeply. You understand the program better than anybody else on the planet. Okay. So lunar returns, this is excellent for your reflectors. Solar returns, yep. Anybody can have a solar return. And what you want to look at when you're doing solar returns are these, it's like the weather conditioning, okay? You want to know, how is your natal chart participating in the weather? So the inner planets, okay? The inner planets, so we have the moon, we have Mercury, we have Venus and Mars. Most likely you are going to bump into people, or people are going to bump into you or show up in your vicinity so that you can grow and develop through the interaction with other people. Okay. If you are looking at the outer planets, okay? The outer planets are developmental, but they're developmental in like situational developments. So you're looking at Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, okay? These are all the external planetary aspects that are going to bring situations so that you can grow and learn. The other space that you want to look at are splits. If you have a split definition, is the solar transit or return. Sorry, is the solar return. Is it bringing you any kind of definition to your split? If it is, those are things to be very aware of. What are you learning? How is that being brought? Is that being brought through a development, or is that being brought through a person? Okay. Now the nodes, your solar return nodes. Okay. These are going to show you that each year there may be a different quote unquote theme to your walk along your road. That's what the nodes really are in your natal chart. There's like this big long road. And like Ra always talks about it, there's cities in Montreal, Paris, London, you know, all of these more ancient cities that the road starts off being called, walkway number 1. And you're walking on walkway number 2 or on number 1 for the beginning of your life. Okay. You're walking along it. And then all of a sudden, you're still on the exact same path. It's this road that is going to continue, but it comes to an intersection. And now when you step over that intersection, it's like, oh, this is walkway number 2, but it's still the same road. Now your solar return is just going to have a different flavor to it. Maybe there's, different stores along the way for the year. So you want to just take a look at the nodes, having like it just adds to the flavor of your walkway. It doesn't change anything. Nothing changes. It's just a different flavor. Okay. It's like this background frequency. Okay. Now you're going, oh my goodness, there's a lot of layers here. Yeah, there's always layers in human design. But what really matters is that you lean back into your natal and you trust it. Okay. And you start to come from an awareness from your natal chart. Okay. So now let's take a look at these longer cycle aspects. Okay. So the longer cycle aspects are what we would call the Saturn return, the Uranus opposition, then the Chiron return, and then the second Saturn return. Now, Ra doesn't talk a lot about the second Saturn return because in his mind, not many people are going to get there. Now, I don't know, the advent of this new cycle that we're going into, I think that a lot of people are going to lean back into natural remedies, being able to utilize the perfection of their bodies, the wisdom of their bodies. And when we actually tap into the wisdom of our body, and we like the mind gets out of the way of the body, there's a whole healing process that has the opportunity to happen for you. Again, I'm not a doctor, but this is all, happening. Dr. Joe Dispenza is doing this in his 7-day retreats. He's watching people quite literally go into a meditative state and repair everything in their bodies. All kinds of ailments are just vanishing out of the body in real time because that is available when you integrate and when you are truthful to who you are. So, Saturn return. What is the purpose of a Saturn return? So from 0 to 30, this is where, quite literally, the important piece of 0 to 30 is the primary health system. Being able to ingest food correctly, okay? So if you're taking notes, this is the time to start taking notes for sure. The Saturn return actually is leading you up to the midlife, okay? The Saturn return is around age 30. And this is where you become responsible, okay? This is the Saturn return is the space that you become comfortable and responsible, not comfortable, responsible before you get to midlife. And this is the time, okay, from 30 to 50, that's the Saturn return, because from 0 to 30, what you're really trying to do is live life, test everything out. That's what we're doing. When the Saturn return hits, this is the time where we become responsible, where we start to differentiate, okay? This is what we call the roof aspect. This is where we start to differentiate from all of the, say, peer pressure and stuff that's going on from 0 to 30. We start to differentiate from the Saturn return to the Uranus opposition, okay? And what Ra has indicated is that women, females, are impacted the most from 30 to the Uranus opposition, which is around the age of 40-ish, okay? The Saturn return is 30-ish. I'm going to say ish because sometimes there's like, maybe it might be 28, it might be 42. So this roof phase impacts a lot of women. This is where they mature into taking responsibility and leaning into their responsibility and differentiating. Now, do men also do this? Yes. Okay. But it does impact the women more. So if you are in the Saturn return, okay, and we're looking at these cycles, the only thing, if you are giving readings, this weather conditioning no longer applies. Okay, it no longer applies. You want to look at the crosses. Are they moving from, left to right? Are they staying right to right? Are they moving from juxtaposition to a right or a left? You want to look at what's going on with the cross, because the cross gives us an indication. So, for example, mine are all, my whole life, it's right angle cross. What that tells me is that this entire trip in this particular incarnation, it's not about me having allies, okay? This is my own trip. This is my own process. And the allies are not going to come and quote unquote save me, okay? Left angle cross, different story. Left angle cross always has allies to help. Okay, always has allies to help. Now, I see this in my relationship with my husband. He's a left angle cross, I'm a right angle cross. He always has allies to help him. Always, every day, constantly. When he's at home, there's people here helping him. Always. Okay? If you're juxtaposition and you're this bridge that takes the personal and moves it into the transpersonal so these people can have allies, and now all of a sudden you have a totally different cross, either left or right, this is going to be big for you to recognize that, your fixedness may, have to lean more into a process of like self-discovery, or you may get a lot more allies. It's not that your cross, quote unquote, you don't become the cross. You just watch how the cross starts to, I guess, I don't want to say manipulate, but I do. The who's going to be playing in your soup with you, okay? Kind of changes that. The profile, okay? It's a new layer. The profile is always important when we're talking about these larger cycles. The cross is always important. The profile is important. So the profile is like a new layer of expression. Okay? It's a new layer of expression. So maybe you are a 2-4, but your Uranus opposition or your Chiron return, they have different profile aspects where you're going to be able to pull that. So say you're a 2-4 and naturally you have all these gifts. Okay. Naturally, it's just natural to you. And now all of a sudden you're in your Uranus opposition. You're in this moment of this Uranus opposition. And this Uranus opposition where we're, really maturing. And all of a sudden your profile is a 1-3. Well, as a 2, you're not actually designed to study. You're designed to really nurture your own gifts. But now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel like there's this process of studying that is going to take place so that my natural gifts can actually get better. Okay. So you just look at that profile and those things start to happen in your life that will solidify your profile. You don't become it. You don't become a 1-3. You're still a 2-4. It's just that those expressions will help your natal profile be more seen out into the world. Okay. And then the nodes. The nodes, your fractal line that is in your natal chart will always be your fractal line. It's always the road that you walk on. Okay. However, very similar to down here when I talked about the direction, it's like there's going to be these new stores that pop up along the way, this new background frequency that you then get to interact with or not. It's like a flavor to your road. So maybe one set of lights. Oh, there was a theater, but now there is a mini mall. Okay. So you want to just take a look at that. Oh, what are those nodes doing? It's a new environment. Who are those people around? So maybe your nodal expression was maybe the line values there in your natal chart are, maybe that's a 2-4. Okay. And you notice that lots of people around you have all these natural gifts and there's a big network that's built around you. You see this, you notice this, you interact with those kind of people. And then all of a sudden in one of your larger cycles, maybe now the nodes become 6s. They're both 6s. And now you're walking along your road and you notice that there's a whole bunch of aloofness. Oh, okay. It's not that you're the 2-4 people, they went away. They didn't. But now these 6s start to pop up, these role models that are quite aloof. They're like Buddhas sitting on the sidewalk. They're meditating, they're doing all these things. And you're like, oh, what's happening here? Now all of a sudden it's a different kind of interaction. Okay. It's this new flavor that comes along your road. Okay. The Uranus opposition, one thing that Ra says and talks about deeply is that the Uranus opposition isn't as important as the Saturn return, okay, or as the Chiron return, okay, because this Uranus opposition, the Uranus opposition is like, this is where you master your presentation, okay? This is where you start to master your expression of your chart. So from the 30s to the 40s, right? 0 to 30, you tried everything out, okay? And then from 30 to 50, this larger aspect that goes here. This is really this space where you're differentiating. But between 30 and 40, he indicates that it's like this master of presentation, okay? You are maturing. This is the marker of your maturity in this Uranus opposition around the age of 40, 42-ish, somewhere in there, okay? And this is where it's like the prana, the internal prana is now expressed into the world through this maturity. Now, usually midlife impacts men a lot more. And that's just the genetic makeup of women, females to males to men, is that women they differentiate and they mature quicker. The men mature a little later. That's all this is. It's just a later maturity phase. Okay. And now we get to the Chiron return. And what the Chiron return, again, we're only using the cross, the profile, and the nodes to give these these cycle charts. That's it. This down here, this is all for your solar returns. Okay, that's it. So when we look at the Chiron return, this is the flowering stage. Ra really talked a lot about this because, you know, he'd gone through it. He was deeply in it. And the flowering stage he indicates that there's like a 7-year process or transition process that happens here. So it's not like you jump from the Uranus opposition, you get to your Chiron, that's it. No, there's a 7-year process that really helps the flower start to, you know, show itself. This is where the purpose can be fulfilled. Okay. So in the Chiron return, when you are correct, okay, when you are correct and you have really solidified your decision-making process, the daily transits, okay, the program doesn't impact you at all. Okay. The program's not going to impact you. Okay. Because what the Chiron does is it reveals your expression of mastery. It reveals your expression of mastery. And this is where the Chiron return at the age of 50, this truly is where your motivation, so the personality, sun and earth, and the motivation that is built into the color tone base, that motivation truly doesn't kick in until you're 50. Now, I hear it. I can already hear it. People in the human design community are going to lose their mind and go, what are you talking about? My motivation's working right now. Excellent. That's good. Okay. The motivation isn't truly going to be solid in the mind, in the mental capacity, in how you move in this world until the Chiron return. You can fight me on that if you want. That's okay. It's okay. So now you're like, but there's another circle over here, Leann. What is this? The second Saturn return. Now, Ra actually did hit his second Saturn return because that second Saturn return is around 58-ish. Okay. It's around 58-ish. And that second Saturn return really is the time that you have just taken this whole life. Okay. And now you get to mentor the people around you. So this is where you notice how employees become consultants. They've retired, right? Quote unquote retired, the age of 58-ish. They have the capacity to retire if they choose. Some of them, some people. And now's the time to take all of this wisdom, all of it, and you package it and you mentor those that are just, you know, moving along their pathway on all these cycles. And now you get to mentor them. So what you'll notice as the longer you're in human design, what I love is that I notice my life cycle. I am Like I am just under 3 years away from the Chiron return, and Ra indicates that there's a 3.5 year prior to, 3.5 year after, this 7-year process that really leans you into your Chiron return. I'm noticing that there is a lot of people coming into my life that are in this return because they really want to solidify their purpose so that they can go out and mentor. So why am I bringing this all to you today? In regards to like this kind of movement and progression that we've been talking about, niches and the programs and what you are selling to people and the solutions that you have. I'm bringing this to you today so that you can recognize that there is a progression. And your business, your niche is probably going to adjust as you move from your Saturn return to your Uranus opposition, to your Chiron, to your second Saturn return, okay? There's going to be this adjustment in the niche. And what's important is that you allow that to happen. You allow those pivots to take place in your life. So working with clientele, it's been fun to watch that pivot take place. Where, there's mothers that raise their children and their kids are in like high schoolish. So now they're ready to step back into the workforce and, workforce, if that's what you want to call it, but they want to start something that is flexible, that they can really, lean into their purpose, help people, serve their communities. And I watch how a lot of those human beings are coming into my life and jumping into the human design business integrated solutions, because they've got this life process and they're in this, they've matured and they're ready to step into this Chiron where they're totally flowered so that they can then really be the mentor for their grandkids, for their kids, friends, all of those kind of things, right? So it's interesting to watch how your life events and your life cycles are going to change your niche. But my caveat is know your natal chart, know your decision-making process, because if you're chasing the amusement of the transits, your mind is going to be exhausted, your body is going to break down, and the program is going to keep you in a hypnotic trance that may not be serving you. Again, let me reiterate, when you're in your monopole, you get to decide. There's a decision from you and the trueness of who you are on whether or not you're going to participate with that particular transit or that particular person. Now, some people call that boundaries. I call that decision-making. I call that decision-making. So lean in. If you want to participate in the transiting system, stop looking at them. Stop amusing your mind and start really watching your life. Get curious. Why did that person just say that to me? I wonder if this situation, if it's happening for me, what could be happening for me in this situation? Now you've changed the dialogue in your mind and in your life. Because now you get curious, because all these things that are coming towards you, all these things that are around you, you get to participate with them through your own decision-making. And if you're chasing after an amused mind, it's going to be cluttered and it's going to fall for the hooks. Okay? So that was a pretty long recording. But quick reminder, there's 3 ways that you can interact with me, and probably a lot of you guys have left now. 1, you can grab and claim your prosperity report. 2, you can jump into the self-study and the mentorship. 90 days are included now. After that, it's a very low $147 a month, and you get us 6 times a month. Amazing. Or 3, you can jump into the human design business integrated solutions and truly step into and master and be the flowering and be the mentor that you want to be for the people in your life, because that's where we're all heading. We're all heading to this integrated space where we can now just be ourselves and quite truly serve and help those around us. All right. Have fun, friends.